You're watching memorable entertainment television. MeTV Tri-State.
Broke the story on local homestead tax credit fiasco. Expose the Evansville Redevelopment Commission excessive spending habits.
Your community watchdog. CityCountyObserver.com is your online community newspaper dedicated to the progress of Evansville and Vanderburgh County. We're a nonpartisan publication providing insight into political issues and events that shape our community. We are a watchdog for you, the citizen. Check us out online, city-countyobserver.com. That's city-countyobserver.com.
Tri-State Voices, an open discussion with area leaders on issues affecting communities throughout the Tri-State. Now, here's your host, Mike Woods.
Good morning. Welcome to Tri-State Voices. Every week, Tri-State Voices interviews a different community leader to discuss issues that are important to all of us. Tri-State Voices is jointly sponsored by the City County Observer, WTSN, and my office, Woods & Woods. Today we're honored to have Mr. Tom Spangler here. Mr. Spangler is the 8th District Democrat candidate for Congress. He's running against two-term incumbent Larry Bouchon. Tom, glad to have you here.
Well, thank you, Mike. Thank you very much.
You know, maybe the best place to start is by asking you, you've had a wonderful career in business. You raised your children, got grandkids. Why are you going to take on this big load of wanting to run for Congress?
Well, Mike, that's been a question that has been asked me many, many times since I filed back in January. You know, being a small business guy, I've never run for office. I've watched politics. I have always stayed you know, involved as far as seeing what's going on with current events, because that's important to your business. And so what happened like 7 months ago? Do you remember what happened 7 months ago, back in October?
Which thing you talk about?
Our government shutting down.
Okay.
You know, that, as a small businessman, that really hurt me. It hurt me from the standpoint of business. It hurt me from the standpoint that for my regard for our government, especially Congress, where they decided to shut down our government because they could not repeal a law that has already stood the scrutiny of the Supreme Court. And consequently, I felt as a businessman that Congress turned their back on me. And I'm sure that Congress has turned their back on many other small business people and even big business. And so that's what really inspired me. I started thinking, you know, how can I make a difference? And I started exploring what's going on in our own district, who our congressman is, and what did he do? Except vote 50 times to repeal something that everybody knew right there in the beginning, Mike, that wasn't going to happen. So, you know, it gave our government a $23 billion hit to our economy. So that's what inspired me to run for Congress.
You've discussed many times how important your faith is and how it's one of the big reasons you're running for Congress. Can you explain to the viewers how your faith drives you? Yes.
You know, faith is really the most, that's me. That's Tom Spangler. I mean, I am a Christian. I know Jesus Christ as my personal Savior. I believe and I know that the Bible is the perfect Word of God. And I use prayer, Mike, daily as a guiding light for me. And I read the Bible every day. I have devotions every day because you can't do it on your own. I don't care whether you're running a small business or you're in Congress. You've got to have the strength of the Almighty God and Creator in helping you make the right decisions, whether it be in business, in government, or even in your family life. That's how important faith is to me.
Do you have an A+ rating from Right to Life and any other organization that's interested in the Right to Life issue? What's your opinion on abortion?
Well, you know, first of all, I'm very, very pleased that the Southwestern Right to Life agency gave me that A+ rating. I'm very, very pleased. You know, I believe that abortion is murder, and I believe that life begins at conception. It's simple as that. And you know, for things to change, Mike, we need to, as a country, I believe, become a little bit, well, become more morally strong. And the way to do that is to look at some of these issues like abortion. You know, if I'm elected to Congress, one of the first bills that I would introduce is the fact that that we can agree that life begins at conception. If we can agree on that point, Mike, then Roe versus Wade goes away. We don't have to have that disagreement anymore. You know, the other item that is connected to abortion is choice. You know, abortion is the law of the land. A woman today has a choice. And as a man, you know, I cannot fathom, I can't even imagine if I was confronted with the fact that that if I carried this child to full term that I could possibly die, or that, you know, I am carrying a child as a result of incest or rape, and to have to make a choice, to make a decision in regards to that. As a man, I can't fathom that. I cannot understand how a woman would be able to make a decision. But, you know, they have to make that decision. And my hope and prayer is that they make the right decision. Whatever that decision is, they make the right decision. And know that, that our God is a just God, is a loving God. And that's, you know, that's where I stand on those two issues.
Okay, so would you have a national law then prohibiting abortion, but you would make exceptions in a case of rape or incest?
Well, just as I mentioned, you know, first of all, I would, you know, as being a congressman, I would introduce a bill just defining life. I think that's the most important part of this abortion issue, is defining life, because that seems to be where there's a lot of disagreement. And at that point, from a state standpoint, again, it has to stand the scrutiny of the Supreme Court, but I would hope that, that it would be a national law, if that would be the way that it would go.
Okay, with I guess, those very limited exceptions you mentioned earlier.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. One of the big issues in this campaign, you alluded to it earlier, is the Affordable Care Act, the so-called Obamacare. It seems like the House just keeps voting time after time after time to repeal it, which is not going to happen. And they've not really put in as much as I can tell, much to replace it, even though they keep saying to repeal and replace. If you had your way, what would you do with the Affordable Care Act? Well,
you know, going back and looking at our country, you know, one of the important parts of of America today and yesterday was the fact that everyone had the opportunity to have a great, affordable education. And the same should go for health care. You know, every president, I mean, going back to President Reagan, well, before that, Carter, the Bushes, Clinton, you know, every president stepped up and said that our country needed a affordable health care plan. And consequently, none of those presidents delivered to the American people until President Obama. Is the Affordable Health Care Plan perfect? Absolutely not. There's a lot of problems to that act. But it's something that we can work off from. It's something that we could certainly improve. Some of those things that we could improve is, first of all, the individual mandate. You know, we're Americans. We don't like to be told what we have to do and what we don't have to do. You know, so that's one thing that we need to look at. Another thing, of course, is to take the different elements out of the Affordable Health Care Act. It has to do with abortion, also with contraceptives and so forth. That needs to be taken out, especially with the fact that there are some religious organizations that feel like that's an issue for them. But if you flip the other side, there are some great things there that that is helping us Americans today. Is the fact that the pre-existing condition item. If you think about that, you know, my wife and I, well, my wife, she battled breast cancer, and today, you know, she's doing fine. But since that happened, Mike, you know, it felt like we had a scarlet letter every time that we went to check out or try to improve our insurance or get a lower cost in insurance. We had like a scarlet letter because my wife battled breast cancer. So that's something that the American people don't have to deal with today, is the pre-existing condition. You know, everyone is treated equally. You know, another item is my grandson. He's in college. If we didn't have the Affordable Health Care Act today, he wouldn't have insurance. There would be a lot of young people in college that would not have health care today. But my grandson has health care insurance today because he's on his father's plan, and that's what this act brought. So there's some good things, but on the flip side, there's some bad things. But again, Congress has used that as a political football. You know, you would think that, especially with our congressman, who is a doctor, who is a medical expert, you know, instead of voting 50 times, over 50 times, to repeal that, which everyone knew could not be repealed, and then using that as a way to shut down our government, you know, instead of that, he and his party should have brought forth some positive solutions, some positive ideas on how to improve that act. And I think that can happen. I think that can happen with this next Congress, and hopefully people, new people with new ideas, business people with looking at it from a business standpoint instead of a political standpoint, can make those changes to the Affordable Health Care Act.
You know, something I found interesting with the Affordable Health Care Act, when people ask, the polls show that when people are asked, they really don't like it. But when they get into the specifics about portability, pre-existing conditions, keeping your kid on the insurance while they're in college, if you have a handicapped child, when the child gets 18, you can go ahead and keep them on there for life, that sort of thing. They like it on an individual basis, and I think if the Democrat Party would simply push harder and educate the people and say, you're going to lose this, you're going to lose this, you're going to lose this, and they ought to harp about one other thing, and that over 50% of the bankruptcies in the United States are due to medical care.
That's
you know, we're just about
right.
a block away from the federal building in Evansville, and if you go over and spend one day over in bankruptcy court, it's heartbreaking. You see people, and I'm sympathetic, I'll be 59 this year, but you see people that have worked for 40 years, at the end of their career they have cancer, heart attack, lose their job, lose their health insurance, and then they lose their home. I don't think most people think that's fair.
I think you're exactly right. I mean, that is the reason why every president that I can think of, again, going back to Carter, to Reagan, saw that as a priority, that we do something as a country to have affordable health care, because it is, and it has been, damaging our economy. It's putting a lot of downward pressure on our economy and prohibiting families from being able to enjoy, you know, good health, You know, just like the fact that you can now go and have preventative health care. You can get ahead of the curve, as they say. You know, you can have some preventative, the different tests and things that people can take now at no charge, so that they can get ahead of something that may be a cancerous situation or something like that, Mike. So,
you know, speaking of health care, you've seen a lot of things in the news recently about the Veterans Administration and problems in health care. What would you do if you're fortunate enough to be elected to Congress about the VA?
Well, the VA, you know, it's the second largest agency in our government. It employs over 230,000 people, and they're responsible for well over 700 healthcare facilities across the United States. And I think that despite the fact that every president since Reagan has increased the VA budget, and on top of that, we've had a lot of, you know, we've had a couple wars here that has also increased the need for more VA. We need to do something to bring up the efficiencies there in the VA administration. It's certainly showing it even today, you know, from what has been brought out in Arizona. You know, in talking to some veterans, I have a real good veteran friend, and he was telling me about the fact that here he lives, you know, in Du Bois County, where I live, and he had to go for a hearing test. And they sent him a letter, and they said, you can take that hearing test, you got to go to Marion, Illinois, 3 hours away, 3 hours away. And he called back, and 14 days later they said, he got an answer, and it said that, hey, I'm on dialysis, I can't do that, you know. And so they said, well, let's try going to Indianapolis for a hearing test, for a hearing test. And so I guess I'm trying to find out, why can't we have some great healthcare facilities, not government VA healthcare facilities, but we have some good healthcare facilities all around us. Why can't we tap into those with the VA benefits and so forth? I mean, a hearing test to me is nothing that is totally specialized, that only a VA hospital can give that. You know, why can't that hearing test be done somewhere closer for that man? And I'm sure that can be repeated over and over again. So there's a lot of things that needs to be done to increase the efficiency.
Yeah, there's a lot of people who advocate kind of giving the veterans kind of an opt-out right. If they're supposed to be treated at the VA, medical care is supposed to be provided there, and they're not happy, let them just be treated just like any other Medicare person and go work to whatever provider they want.
That's exactly right. I would certainly support that. In fact, my plans here in my campaign is to sit down with a number of our healthcare facilities here in our district and discuss with these experts why that can happen. I mean, or why it can happen. You know, there's got to be some answers, because the efficiencies of the VA, you know, as far as trying to help the veterans, you know, it's going down. And what's scary is the fact of the Paul Ryan budget, as far as cutting some of those benefits. I think that's something we can't do. We just need to, as in business, you know, you want to make more profit, you want to make things run a lot better, well, then you increase your efficiency. Again, I would look at it from a business standpoint, not from a political standpoint.
Well, coal is really important to the 8th District. I mean, thousands and thousands of jobs are dependent upon coal. What do you see the future of coal, and how would you protect the coal jobs?
We have to protect the coal jobs. We have to. Here in southern Indiana, coal is very important to our economy. It's very important to our energy. It's a low-cost energy for us, and it brings in a lot of money. On top of that, it not only provides jobs for the people working there in the coal mines and the coal companies, but also provides a lot of jobs for the heavy equipment people who make the graders and so forth. I'm very concerned about the fact that I guess I'm more concerned about the coal workers than I am the big high-profit coal companies. I think that we need to help them out. My grandson works for a coal company. He works in the mines. And so the last thing I want to see is for him to be out of a job and having to come home and live with me.
Yeah. And what would you do to change the Postal Service? You know, it continues to run a deficit. Most people think that deficit's going to just get greater and greater because of email, and you're going to be left with more and more junk mail. Would you change to only delivery a few days a week, raise prices? What would you do? Oh,
Mike, that's a misnomer. I mean, I'm very passionate when it comes to the Postal Service. I'm very passionate about that because to me, that the post office is as American as, you know, as the American flag, the pledge to the allegiance. I mean, it is an American institution, and it is efficient. What Congress has done over the past 4 or 5 years, they've done everything they could to undermine that agency, all just to try to eliminate good-paying union jobs. That's what they've done. Look at how they have to basically prepay the retirement out over 70 years. There's not another agency in the government that is required to do that. So, I mean, they keep putting these different roadblocks in to try to make it look like it's not efficient. But they've done a lot. I mean, you think about these hardworking people there at the post office. They're out there 6 days a week, and, you know, that type of delivery we need. The elderly needs the post office. A lot of times they get their medicine. And what would happen if, you know, if we cut service, what would happen to them? You know, not everybody is on email. Not everybody is technologically advanced. So we need the post office, and I'll certainly do everything I can if I go to Congress to make sure that that institution stays as an American and not a privatized institution, but one that will serve us as Americans like they have been for the past 100 years.
Okay. Would you change the minimum wage?
I don't like the word minimum wage, Mike. I truly believe that we need to talk. We need to change that word to livable wage. Yes, I would. I would vote for a increase of the minimum, well, of the livable wage to $10.10 an hour. We certainly need that. It's been a number of years since it's been increased, and I think we need to do that. There are people right here in our district, right here in Evansville, that are working 2 jobs, trying to make ends meet, and even working 2 jobs, they are not getting over the poverty level, and that's just not right. We have got to do something, you know, to help these hard-working people that's got families, and that's one way to start. And what it will do, it will bring more tax money back into the economy. And what's really kind of neat, just this weekend, I saw the, you know, Mitt Romney, the presidential nominee, a couple years ago. A good businessman. That's what he ran on. He's a good businessman, and he is. He came out and said that we should increase the minimum wage. So that's certainly, you know, a step in the right direction. I hope that his party will certainly follow what he has to say about that, because certainly I would support that if I went to Washington.
In the last few years, the federal deficit's been just terrible. What would you do to reduce that federal deficit?
I tell you, I don't have any immediate ideas, but I will tell you that that didn't happen overnight, and it's not going to, you know, turn around overnight either. I mean, there's a lot of things that can be done. I am not totally, you know, in the knowledge of all the areas of the federal budget. You know, there's things that I would have to look at, but certainly I believe that just like what we talked about, the efficiencies in the VA, the money's there for the VA, we just need to create some efficiencies. We need to increase the efficiencies of our government, and that's one way of you know, bringing down the debt. And I think we're starting to see some of that happen. You know, we've seen the debt grow, but we're starting to see some things happen, and I hope that we can, you know, do some cost cutting, but let's cut the fat, not the muscle. And what I mean by that is the fact that we've got to protect Social Security. You know, someday I hope to get Social Security, you know, and there's a lot of people that depend on that, and they've paid into that. So we need to protect that. We need to protect the veteran benefits. We need to protect Medicare. Let's look at some of the other things that Congress has voted for over the past few years that has added a lot of fat to that budget. Let's take that out, and that's how we can reduce the debt, Mike.
You know, each state is having different gun laws, and one of the proposals regarding guns is to have a national gun permit. So if you get this national gun permit, it kind of overrides the state gun permits, and you can take your gun wherever you want. Other people say we ought to leave that issue to the states. How would you handle that?
Well, first of all, I'll tell you, I own a gun. In my early years, I was a hunter. I shot a lot of things, but I missed quite a bit. Not a good hunter, but I believe that you know, hunting is a sport, and certainly our Constitution makes it very clear about gun ownership. I believe in ownership responsibility. I don't know if it should go on a federal level. I mean, on a total national level. I think that we may look at that from a state-by-state thing, because, again, in some states, you know, hunting and gun ownership is entirely different than in some other states. And so I would say that we'd have to look at this state-by-state.
We're just about out of time. Just in your own words, you tell the people of the 8th District why you want to be their next congressman.
Well, I want to be your next congressman because I'm not a politician. I'm a businessman, and I believe that I've got you know, some Hoosier common sense that I can bring to Washington to break this deadlock that we have, because Congress is broken, and we've got to send more small business people. Farmers, we need to send farmers to Washington, and I'm sorry to say, let's get rid of some of the doctors, and excuse me, Mike, I know your profession, lawyers, but we have too many lawyers there, I'm sorry to say.
Well, I really enjoyed talking to you, Tom. Wish you the very best of luck. If people need to get a hold of you, they can do it through your website, Tom Spengler for Congress.
Yes, yes.
Next week, we'll be back again and talk to another tri-state leader. We hope to see you then. Thank you very much.
This year in the Tri-State, 1 out of 8 people will be in an accident.
Would you know what to do?
Call Woods & Woods. They'll get you help.
When you call Woods & Woods, you are not a statistic. You are our client, and we will fight to get the money you deserve.
And that's what Mike did. He really fought hard for me. They just really cared.
If you've been injured, call 1-800-544-2108.
Let Woods & Woods work for you. You don't owe us a dime unless we win your case.
You're watching memorable entertainment television. Me TV Tri-State.